Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sat means truth, logos means a study or science, Sattology means a science of truth, study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology. Myth in Sanskrit means a fake lie imagination, is a root word for fake lie imagination. Very many different words come from that. Mithya ahankar, mithya char, all these words come. When it combines with logos, which was a British strategy to defame the ancient Vedic literatures, is called mythology. Don't use the word mythology for any Vedic literatures. Please don't use. Use Sattology. The irony is that not a single Western academic calls their history as mythology. So today we have a very special guest who is you all probably know because this is our time to have only one speaker during this time, as the author of Gita Comes Alive. And he is a linguist, he's a poet, and he's a songwriter. He sings also very well. And you can say a rapper with conscience. So without delay, let us welcome Shri Jeffrey Armstrong.
Namaste, everyone. Namaste, Adiji. Great to see you again. Yes, today we're going to talk about some of the myth understandings, aren't we?
Yeah, so Jeff Bezos is going to space for a 1 minute ride. He'll go to the edge of the space and come back. And there is a petition signed for him that please don't come back. It has 22,000 signatures.
Just keep going.
He's a founder of Amazon. And I read the news and I couldn't stop laughing on it.
Yeah. They're going to go start a chain of Star Wars bars.
I think the name is very good, Blue Origin, and but the petition is so funny that he's going to the space and they're putting a petition, please don't come back. Anyway,
That's too good.
Coming back to our world, there are some people who promise, there was a big joke over there, that after death you have all fun if you belong to me or my community. It's similar logic there, but a little bit, that was a little joke, just a joke. And the fallacies of moksha, redemption, and there you took a very funny word over there. You say hokey heaven, and I like that word, hokey heaven, and also the hell, eternal hell. Now, all these concepts are there, but we'll focus on that how. So before we start off, what does actually redemption mean?
Well, that's when you get all your green stamps and put them in the book and you go and get a prize. No, wait, that's something else. I think it's also called salvation, which means to be safe or to be saved. And it's an interesting notion because it's rooted in fear. So I'd like everyone to just think about this, that in fact, it was Adolf Hitler who said it most recently, that the number one way to control everyone is to make them afraid. So the difference between truth-telling and fear-mongering is that in one case, you count on ignorance and use fear to control the ignorant. In the Vedic tradition, you address everyone as if they're intelligent. You address their buddhi, their ability to hear. And the first thing you tell them is you're an immortal being and you can't die, so don't be afraid. I think that's a good starting point for us. Adi?
So you started when we say salvage a ship, sinking ship, salvage a sinking ship, salvaged a debris, like the ship from a debris. Such a negative connotations here. Like if If today I tell people the society has become like that, I want to help you, it's considered negative now. And here, when we're hearing about salvaging us, actually, literally like that, now we are a commodity here. So how demeaning is to our own character. We don't pay attention to these words. That why I need you to save me, if I can save myself. So isn't that somebody has taken a contract of saving us, and that guy is not performing well?
You know, Adi, I looked this up and there's another word along with salvation, and it's redemption. Now, this is very interesting because the word redemption was transformed into redemption-er in the early stages of Europeans coming to North America, when North America was being colonized. And an immigrant from Europe coming to America who obtained passage by becoming an indentured servant for a specific period of time, that means slave, was a redemptioner. So they had to be ransomed, and ransoming them was their debt has to be paid off. So if you start the conversation by intimidating everyone and saying that you're already in debt, you were born in debt, but what did I do to get born in debt? Don't ask. There's no answer. You didn't exist before. But if I didn't exist before, how could I get into debt? Don't ask questions. So this is where this salvation redemptionist fear-based idea can be led, and that it goes to sin and evil. And the word sin in English is constructed from the word is, is, and it was turned around with a negative n at the end, because making everyone sinners is the way to start the intimidating conversation that you need salvation and redemption in order to be safe. Oh, by the way, and that's the product we're selling.
Now we have coupons being sold by Walmart. Redeem your coupon. Redeem your coupon. So where did the coupon come from? This is like selling a coupon here. And I think the coupon is a membership of the church or a place where you can go. So you pay them, keep paying monthly money. And as long as you keep paying them money, you're redeemed. Redeemed from what? Now, you raised a very important question. Redeemed from what? If you did not have, you live only one life, and we already had a last show, which is One Life Syndrome. I think viewers will love that show. And when they see that show, they'll understand that what do we are redeeming for? What are we redeeming for with our faith? And also there is a faith works conundrum, and which is very beautifully explained as bhakti, or the work in devotion is the best work to we'll come to the end. Towards the end of that, we'll first discuss the fallacy of all these different points. So the coupon is the regular monthly payments you make to the church so that you're redeemed. Isn't that true?
Yes, and Adi, I want to add a dimension to this. As you know, I'm a Jyotishi. I'm a Vedic astrologer, and I have been for the last 50 years. Astrology is much misunderstood because it's been explained from a one lifetime perspective, and it's very much disliked by those who only believe in one lifetime. Astrologers are not interested in telling the future, but what they're interested in is the flow of cause and effect over many, many lifetimes. You see, fear is partially generated by the things that happen to us and don't appear to have a reason. So they appear to be irrational. So we think, well, then there must be an irrational universe, and I'm afraid, so somebody help me, just give me salvation, just give me redemption. But if you look at the long game, then after each lifetime, there's a residual cause and effect and a momentum from the things that we've been doing. So the Vedic worldview is for Maha-Atmas. And it says to us that the seemingly irrational cause and effect in life is that It's the result of the previous lives' actions that slowly catch up with us. So you could say the Vedic worldview is the long view.
Vedic worldview is obviously the most ancient and also the most futuristic also, because it actually builds your future. Of the five topics of Gita, one is can be changed, that is karma, and which is the most important topic for us, because even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says to Sanatan Goswami, he says, do not worry about what happened in the past. Now you have this life. Move on. Focus on Harinam and purify your existence now. A very clear instruction, very clear. Because intricacies of karma, how we get here, where we get here, I certainly don't blame people if they're born in certain places where there is no Vedic culture. But because of internet and access, you cannot say that you don't have an access. You have an access now. Another theory which is very common is that everybody believes in a particular faith goes to a hockey heaven. I love the term hockey heaven used. So what was your connotation of that?
Well, why don't I give you the actual definition of the English word heaven? That might help us. You see, these English words are tricky because they're not etymologically explained. Etymology means the history of the word. Many English words were just grabbed by someone and defined, forgetting their past. So the word heaven comes from the Scottish word Avon, and Avon is the name of oats. If you look in the drugstore, you'll find several skincare products with oats in them, and they'll be called Avon. So in Scotland, hundreds of thousands of years ago, the glaciers scraped away all the topsoil. It's a very difficult place to grow crops. The crop that grows there, the grain that grows there, is oats. So they grow the oats, and by summer, they're tall enough to come with a sickle, cut them down, and then they bring a tall wagon and a pitchfork, and they throw the oats up into the wagon, which is called heaven the Avon. I'm not kidding. The word heaven the Avon became heaven, and heaven actually means oatmeal, enough oatmeal for the whole winter. That's the literal meaning of heaven. Now, do you still want to go to heaven and just have oatmeal?
In India, there's a joke: oatmeal is for the horses. So the civilized people eat something else, but oatmeal is for the horses. And I'm not saying anyone who loves it, but
I like oatmeal, but I'm a horse. I'm Sagittarius rising.
No, I'm not making fun of anybody who loves it. In fact, my kids love it. So, but just generally saying, my grandmother used to say, oatmeal is for the horses, and we used to have oatmeals for them. We used to buy oatmeals for the horses in the house. So, coming back to the point that we are discussing, another word, Sanskrit word, is moksha, which is just the word itself is deep, and it comes from mukti, mukta, moksha. All those things are together. Like the moksha is something going permanent, mukti, permanent out of this world. But it's not the ultimate end, because there has to be a destination in mind. Like, for example, if you want to go escape a misery, then you cannot just go blindlessly go to any place. You will try to select a place where you will like to go. So what is your viewpoint on the moksha? Because moksha is also severely misunderstood. And nirvana is another word which is very strong word.
Yes, of course. Well, let's start with nirvan. The word van is also present in the word Bhagavan, and van means one who possesses. So the actual meaning of the word nirvan is that I do not actually own any of this matter that I'm surrounded by. I don't own it. I can't keep it. So when you realize that none of the matter, including the particles that make up your body, or the clothing that you're wearing, or anything material that you're carrying, none of that belongs to you, then you don't hold it and get angry and disappointed or hurt and sorrowful when it goes away. So nirvan is actually mentioned in the Bhagavad-Gita, and then nirvan Brahman. And it's all related to the fact that we're supposed to see ourselves as an immortal being visiting a temporary realm. In the absence of that, the whole thing becomes terrifying and confusing.
Yeah, generally people say nirvana is a Buddhist concept. And I'll tell to those people, if you are uneducated about Sanskrit, that's the only time you're going to say it's a Buddhist concept, because it's a Sanskrit word. And most of the Buddha was born in a Hindu family.
Of course.
And he purposefully, and it is mentioned in Bhagavad Puran very clearly, he purposely went to dissuade indiscriminate killing of animals on the basis of some rituals, which are practically not possible in today's age. So he was the first protector of animal rights, actually, I would say. And so, yes.
And he got his name from Buddhi Yoga.
Yes.
It's very simple, actually. Buddhi means the discernment that allows us to see that we're not from matter, among other things. So that Buddhi, he had a high degree of it. So they called him the Buddha. But any yogi is a Buddhi or a Buddha. And they all know that I'm not iti, not this, not that. And that neti means that I don't fit into any of the categories inside of Prakriti. I'm the Atma.
So there are two paths in the Vedic culture, any common sense path, pravritti and nivritti. Pravritti means increasing your sex and sensual engagement so that you develop a distaste for it. How impractical is that in today's time?
Raise your hand if you can keep any of the material objects you have. So it's one thing to have them. It's another thing to forget that you can't keep them. And if you only have a one lifetime worldview, it's very difficult to get Mahatma and have a big enough worldview to let go of the pieces of matter that you're desperately holding on to.
That's right.
This is the culture that the Abrahamic traditions exist within. It's a one lifetime, superstitious, fear-based, don't take my things away culture that doesn't use perspective to awaken and enlighten people, as the Vedic culture does.
True, very true. Because if you keep on just enjoying, there's a limit to everything. You know, you cannot overeat anytime. So you cannot possess more than what you can use, and it'll be just stagnating. But anyway, and another path is the nivritti, which is very important. You understand your limitations and start developing detachment from material or objects, which may the pleasure may be temporary, and you start living or understanding go inside, start understanding more of yourself and mind. But what we have seen is people develop little knowledge about themselves also, to such an extent that even Krishna has to say Ashcharyavat Pashyati Kashyadenam. Like, people say it is a surprising thing. So what is your view on that?
Really, the whole conversation has been conducted within the concept of bondage. It's not an accident that the one lifetime religious cultures, I don't think they started out meaning to do this. I wouldn't ascribe that to them. I would say they started out thinking, let's not have a long conversation about this. You may remember that the only civilizations we know of that have burned libraries are certain times within Islamic history and certain times within Christian history. They found big libraries with lots of books and quickly set about burning them all. So this shows that they made some kind of corporate decision inside of perhaps originally sincere religions. And I believe it was when they decided to dumb it down and make it only one lifetime. They didn't see the consequences. And so they became the enemy of those cultures like the Vedic culture that always have been showing everyone the long view. Without the long view, you're just lost. So I believe that this violence against libraries is the affliction that happens to religious cultures that try to make everything so simple that any idiot can do it. But then all you get, I mean, please forgive me, but is idiots who only see what's exactly in front of them. And then they don't want to have a library. And what culture has a library? I call the Vedic culture the people of a library. So you see, this is where the tension between the so-called religions and the Dharma culture is, that the one lifetime religions really got angry at this longer game, at this longer view of the Vedic civilization, which is why we shouldn't speak badly of the original intention of the religions. It was to some degree divine and sacred, and they were trying to find the truth. They made executive decisions at a certain point, especially in the Catholic tradition, that just changed history and made their religion become a form of totalitarian violence. And so I know many Christians and Muslims who are not at all like that, and I wouldn't want them to think that we think they're like that. But unfortunately, the corporation became that way, and much damage was done to the world by that fear-based, one lifetime corporate decision.
So one of the another logic being given, and we'll come to the part later on a little bit, is the post-death enjoyment. 72 virgins and all kinds of obnoxious things are there. I mean, I won't say obnoxious, but why would you like to go after death enjoy? It's like a post-dated check. Nobody has seen a post-dated check. I can write you a check of $1 million for 2097. There's no meaning. No, many banks won't exist, including the bank which I bank with. So, like, isn't that like a fallacy where you're promising something in way in future after death, which nobody has seen? First of all, since you only believe in one life, so what is the meaning of post-death enjoyment? This is nothing, because one life is over. You are in the sand. So, and then if you can, somebody was joking with me. He said, I have more than 72 girlfriends. I don't need to see that. I said, okay. So, see, the one point is, things which are very easily available here, why you to struggle for a whole life to do that, and that to explode yourself so that you can go there? That's the point. What do you have to add on that?
It's a great irony that the English word love, L-O-V-E, and you can see this very easily, ba, L-O-V-E, is from the Sanskrit loba. It's also labial. And loba in Sanskrit means greed. And in English, love also means greed, because it doesn't have a literal meaning. So it's applied to everything. Love my dog, love pizza, love this, love that, love this, love that. It's really a greed word. And it's, I want more of that, I want more of that, I want more of that. Nothing wrong with that per se, except the problem is we're here inside of matter. And if we all try to take as much of it as we can, we'll destroy each other in the process. I believe that's the world we're currently living in, with an overemphasis upon object relationships and getting what you want in a greedy kind of way. So you see, the real issue here is, why is it that we're hungry for some higher state or a constant state of pleasure? Is there a way that could be satisfied without stealing the objects of all of those around us. Because here, I don't think there's enough for everyone to be greedy. Do you think so? So what's the solution? Where did these hungry desires in us come from is the philosophical question that is not answered by one lifetime. Adi?
So one of the things that we were discussing were the green stamps for Jesus. So what are those green stamps here?
I think it's green with envy at what other people have, what I don't have. So they're green stamps. And I want all the virgins in heaven. I want oatmeal and virgins for my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All of these crazy ideas are a distortion of something that in yoga we understand very clearly as bhakti. Bhakti means your response to beauty, your actual first innocent response to beauty is to adore it and, in a sense, sort of bow to it and say, oh, look at you. It's only the degraded stage of becoming Ebenezer Scrooge, I believe, is the character in the Christmas story. Scrooge just wants everything and is greedy. Yeah? Adi, isn't there a Sanskrit word for that?
Lolyam. Lolyam.
And we call the desirable female Lolita. I think it's Laulium. It is feminine form. But all of this greedy, hungry grabbing, this grasping and grabbing, is the desperate activity of somebody who doesn't have the ability to have pleasure within themselves. Yes?
That's right. That's right. The very, so when we see the great rishis and munis living in the forest, many of them don't just wear one or two clothes, and many of them are very genuine. Most of them are genuine because they're all highly educated. First of all, people do not know that people who are doing tapasya in Rishikesh, many of them have PhD degrees from material universities, and then they left it and they went there willingly, and they can tolerate heat, extreme cold. America has seen a lot of snow, but you're not seeing the cold of the Himalayas. It goes straight to the bones, and in that weather also they survive and they are happy. I've never seen better sense of humor in anyone else than them, because they have a habit of laughing at themselves. That's ultimate humor. And but here we have to go to comedy shows, and then we come out criticizing the artist over there in the comedy show that he did not act well and he was too personal to many people. The biggest comedy show is that, in spite of seeing everything around us, we are not learning lessons from it. Isn't that true?
Yeah, let's look at this in another way here. Just think, if you really pay attention, if you look around, you can see that it's not a pretty sight when people become greedy and just start grabbing and taking everything at a human level, at any level. And yet it's beauty that originally motivated that what eventually looks quite ugly, grabbing and grasping and taking and stealing and pillaging. It eventually leads to a rape and pillage civilization. And that's probably the ugliest thing you could see, is someone who comes into town and just takes everything and is violent and rape is and everything negative that you could possibly do. And just remember how everyone felt when they first saw beauty. If they had enough true insight to feel it, they felt like bowing to that beauty and just saying, oh, you're so amazing. You're so wonderful. So what if the pursuit of that beauty, if you just do the math, you'll realize it's not possible for everyone to externally have enough of everything. Just not possible. Then the only logic would be to go where that beauty comes from and to turn around and see if there's a state of consciousness in which the same experiences are possible. Brahmabhuta prasanatma, na sochati na kankshati. Explain it, Adi?
Samay sarveshu, sama sarveshu bhuteshu, mad bhakti labhate param. You know?
That is the love of that beauty, but something magical happens to it. What is that?
You know, it's a complete samarpan, like your heart and every existence goes into that, and it's very fulfilling to the heart. You know, we just got I would like to announce to all the viewers also, we got a cow in our house now to serve her, Surabhi. So there's a
So if you say what the yogis, Adi pointed out, what the yogis do, they look at hot or cold and go, well, can't change it. Some days are hot, some days are cold. So I'm not going to be made unhappy by hot or cold today. So that's the first thing. And then they just decide, hot or cold are not going to make me unhappy. Okay, what's next? Well, beauty always makes me happy, but I can't always own it and have it. In fact, if I've tried that, and grabbing it doesn't make it more beautiful, doesn't really mean I have it. This is an experience I have to have. It's a mystery. And in a very true sense, the Vedic civilization is a civilization in pursuit of beauty back to its source.
That's
Not
right.
grabbing and stealing and violating beauty, but honoring beauty and following it back to its source. That's yoga.
No, true, very well said. Now, the descriptions in the Vedic culture is very precise, like na tad bhasate suryo, na shashanko, na pavaka, yad gatva na nivartante taddham paramam mama. Very beautiful description by Krishna, that there is no sunlight, there is no moonlight, they're self-illuminated places, and when people go there, they never come back. Now, it's a very to the point description here of a place where Bhagavan lives. He's talking about his own place. He's not talking about you go and enjoy virgins. He's not talking about, because all those things are available on the earth. You can enjoy here too. I mean, you can work hard and you can whatever you want to do. But having a superior desire, like if you go in the society of intelligent people, the quality of entertainment also changes. The which is, we are right now, we are addicted to the Bollywood or Hollywood culture, where the entertainment is very, even entertainment is not seen there, but it's a very negative, tamasic, and we'll touch a different topic over there. How many different types of entertainment are there? But here we are talking about a quality of entertainment. Quality, we are not saying you should not enjoy. You should enjoy. The world is made for enjoyment, but there is a quality to that too. Won't you agree with that, or do you want to add something to this?
Yes, remember we were talking about salvation. And salvation is rooted in the idea of safety. And safety obviously has got to do with being made afraid. So let me tell you another word that's so instructive and that we should never use in the Sanskrit culture. And the word is pray, P-R-A-Y. Pray is from the word precarious. Precarious means dangerous. So precarious leads to pray. They're the same word, it's just etymologically downstream. Praying out of fear is an ignorance born of not understanding that the ultimate reality, the supreme reality and being, is a loving, beautiful, elegant, best friend, lover, is all of those beautiful metaphors, not the most dangerous being who can't wait to punish us. And again, this is all part of having a sin, evil, heaven, hell, salvation and redemption. You've got to be saved. You've got to have a savior. you've got to be afraid and then pray to the great bully in the sky, don't hurt me, don't hurt me. That worldview is a fear-based worldview. But the Vedic worldview starts out saying, relax, 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 namaste. Remember, you're the Atma, you can't die. It's okay, you'll be fine. Relax, calm down. Only material things come and go. You're the Atma doesn't come and go. So now, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we in the Vedic culture don't pray. We're not afraid. That's the first thing. We're not afraid. Right, Adi?
True. Bhayam dvitiya biniveshata syat. The fear personified is fearful of Hari. Very clear. Very, very clear. So, and also the biggest fear, we have already spoken about it, is death. And that's where people say, what happens after death? Well, if you believe in the body, it's right in the grave, right in front of you. Nothing has happened to it. Insects are going to eat it. So if you're scared of insects, that's a real fear now, because you just believe in the body. So, but as far as post enjoyment, salvation, redemption, all these different terms, and there is a salvation army. There is salvation army, and they're collecting donations from you because they want to take money so that they can give you salvation. So you have seen that every supermarket store you go, there is a person playing a bell. I'm not against to what they're doing. The purpose was very good. But if you remove karma from there, the salvation doesn't make sense. So what is your point of view on that?
Well, because we were going to have this conversation, I looked up the word salvation. It says protect from harm or risk, deliverance from power and penalty of sin, or redemption. So it actually, in my case, I was born, Adi, I am that mongrel dog you were talking about. In fact, just as we have a saying in literature, the Mongol horde, at one time in history, there was a horde of Mongols that swept across Europe in horseback. So I'm the mongrel horde. I'm part of the horde of mixed dogs. But those mixed dogs have something interesting going for them. It is that salvation is to protect from all of this. So it's a fear-based culture. And as soon as you take that fear away, so when I was quite young, I was raised in Protestant churches and Presbyterian and Methodist, and nobody was ever bad or evil to me. I have no horrible memories of Christianity. Most of them were sweet, gentle people, and they wouldn't have wanted to cause any harm. The minister was sincere and he was doing his best to understand. But I had this feeling that something was wrong. And it had to do with the fact that Jesus seemed very loving and reasonable. If anything, a little extreme, but extreme in love. At least it doesn't seem dangerous. But then his father seemed very dangerous and not very loving and very unapproachable. So coming from the outside and then into the Vedic culture, the Bhagavad-Gita begins with the Supreme Being, Bhagavan, talking with Arjuna. And the first thing he says to Arjuna is, because you and I are best friends, I'm just going to tell you the truth. Now, if I'd heard that at age 13, I would have gone, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But to have an angry, dangerous, mysterious, punishing father and a loving, self-sacrificing son raised more questions than it answered. So I eventually got a degree in history and comparative religion, and I listened to everyone's story, and I respect their attempts at finding some truth. And I respect the amount of truth that they have, but folks, it doesn't answer the questions. And the Vedic civilization has this amazing view that is really addressing each individual to develop that individual relationship and to live with the dignity of being an adventurer on this adventure to the realm of matter and not someone who's punishable for being here.
No, the Sanskrit word comes to astikyam, and astikyam means a firm shraddha. Shraddha is a better word than faith. Faith is can be shallow. I can have faith in a ball. I can have faith in the microphone. But shraddha is something else. It's more personal to another person. So shraddha, you have shraddha, so you are an Arya. You are not the other things I was saying. So you are an Arya, because a person who has faith in Vedic literatures is an Arya. So Arya doesn't mean that by birth also. It is just means a gentleman. Now, when we come to these all these important terms that we're talking about, these are very important terms for people who are watching our shows, because they are used in heavy propaganda in every single sphere, in every literature, especially in India nowadays, and other places in South America. These are declared, used significantly. So all the Native Americans and the South American natives both have been put to fear, and now this fear is being gradually being spread in India also, for the simple villagers, that if you do not believe in Ishu, which they call there as Christ, then you are doomed if you don't believe in him. And the word Ish is refers to Vishnu. Yes, I mean, but Vishnu is not scaring you. You know, Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, na dveshte na cha priya. He says, I'm equal to everyone. He's talking about all manushas or humanity. He's talking about I'm equal to everyone. So there is no need to fear. And he says, he says, Ananyas chintayanto mam yogak shemam vahamyaham. He says, I carry what you lack, I preserve what you have. He's not saying if you don't give me money or if you don't give me, I destroy you. That's a different message. Okay. What do you have to add on that, sir?
Well, since you mentioned language in this discussion, this is one of my great areas of interest. So I just want to remind all the listeners that it's a very important aspect of the Vedic knowledge that Sanskrit as a language does not drift over time. Its meanings don't degrade. You could say the simple thing to understand is that everything within matter is undergoing entropy. So that means over time, pieces of it break off and it loses its intrinsic nature and value. And then it has to be destroyed and recycled. But it's very important for language to remain steady and meaning to remain steady so that meaning can be passed down over time. Okay. Now, this in Sanskrit is called nirukta. It means that every word has a root, and that root doesn't vary. Whereas, as you'll notice, we're pointing out, English words were not chosen because of a deep, precise meaning. They're very illusory, and therefore it's difficult to be specific when you're using them. Let me give you an example. The word in English for the actual meaning of a word is etymology, etumos. It is the actual unchanging essence of something. So this etymology, E-T-Y, eti, is from the Sanskrit hetu. And hetu means not hate, H-E-T-U. Hetu means logic. It means precision. So it's very important to learn a Sanskrit vocabulary. And then the definitions in English, you have to be very careful because it's easy to use words that destroy the meaning of the Sanskrit. And we'll talk more about this in the future. But each of these words in Sanskrit, defined correctly, stabilizes the conversation. Atma cannot be cut, cannot be burned, cannot be damaged in any way. It can't be blown by the wind, and so on and so on. So each of these words, you have to build a structure of meaning with those words And partly what we're pointing out to you is that these other traditions, one lifetime traditions, are illiterate traditions. They're really not steady in their meanings. So the Sanskrit and learning it correctly and getting its essence correctly, even when you bring it into English, is a very important part of this conversation.
So last point in this is, and you made a good point on the linguist part, and that's the important thing we wanted to focus on, because these words are be used or thrown around, but nobody understands them, why they're being thrown around, and what is the real background of all of them. The last word that I like to focus more is on the moksha. Moksha doesn't mean freedom from miseries or just leaving things on earth. Moksha has a much deeper meaning. It's like some people say in a jokingly way, I got a moksha from the house course. That's not moksha. that's a, that's just a temporary relief you got. And but the moksha has a much deeper meaning connected to karma bandhan, the cycle of bondage due to our karma. And so freedom from that is called moksha. And it's said mukti and moksha are the similar topics, but moksha is much far deeper. What do you want to add on that, sir?
Well, this is one of my favorite etymological jumps. From the mo of moksha is the emo of emotion, and the mo of motivation, and the mo of motor. So this is the part that makes us go forward. And it's also true of Shraddha. Shraddha is not faith, it's an inner knowing. This is very important. Shraddha is an inner knowing that results from what? From the many, many lifetimes that a person has spent in becoming a rishi. That Shraddha is not a faith. It's the cumulative experience of many lifetimes. But if you don't understand that the Atma cannot be destroyed and goes for many, many, many lifetimes and accumulates wisdom, then you don't understand that there are Atmas of varying gradations of Shraddha. So Shraddha is either tamasic. I'm sure that it's true, but it's absolutely not. Rajasic, I'm sure that it's true, but I'm only partially right. Sattvic, Shraddha, that's almost always accurate. And the deepest Shraddha is a knowing and not a faith. And it's not blind, it's with Veda, and Veda means to see. Veda actually allows us to see. And that inner seeing and inner knowing is not faith. It's a state that has been described, and that when you achieve it, your achievement will match the description. And it's the result of many, many lifetimes in pursuit of this perfection of understanding of who we really are. That's the end.
Great way to end the show today. And we'll have more interesting topics next week. And I really enjoyed. And most of you are getting a lot of questions. I'll come back to Jeffrey and we'll prepare the next topic next week. But I hope today you learned the differences between salvation, redemption, and moksha, and also heaven, and also the fallacies of all those words and mental conceptions. Would you like to say some closing lines, Jeffrey?
Well, whenever Bhagavan is summing up, he says, Arjun, you and I are so priya. What does it mean, Adi? Priya.
Dear.
Dear to each other.
Yes.
So at the end of all these Vedic conversations, it's like meeting your best friend you haven't seen for 10 years, having a great conversation and a hug before you go down the road. It's priya. So all of this is to lead us to become dear to every living entity. It is not to generate animosity between groups who misunderstand. It is that we see everyone as priya, and with that attitude, we relate to them, bow to them, and then also try to share this great vidya. Thanks, Adi, for doing this. It's a great thing you're doing.
Thank you all for joining, and do buy the book GitaComesAlive.com. Get a book written by Jeffrey. And also keep watching for next week for some very interesting topic. I have already got a lot of suggestions from you, and we'll continue that. So meanwhile, share as much as you can. Namaste.